Seven seals break on crimson scroll. White horse rides with rider bold. Red and black their fury roars. Pale horse brings the shadowed horse.
That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, he was set loose unto the earth, and his angels followed with him.
Imagine looking into the night sky and seeing gods, prophets, or alien fleets descending, only to realize it's all just an illusion. Project Bluebeam isn't just a conspiracy theory, it's a story of a manufactured apocalypse, a stage-managed end of the world. In this episode, we confront the chilling idea that faith, fear, and even reality itself could be weaponized against all of us. Welcome to the Common Anomaly podcast. I'm your host, Stuart James. Joining me today is Clayton James. How's it going, brother?
It's going good. I'm doing good, but it looks like fall's arrived.
That's
it was a little chilly on the way over here.
Chilly, cloudy, and cold today. Yeah, That's right. Which I like. I'm about ready for it.
It's good. It's fall fashion season. I'm a fan.
Excellent. Yeah. I might actually have to turn the heat on today. It's a bit chilly, but maybe after the show. But yeah. Glad that we're back to our regular routine. We've got Zena with us for the whole show today. Usually Iam does us a favor and takes Zena out for a big walk while we're recording the show, and maybe we have her just kind of towards the end after she's tired out. But I'm actually rolled her ankle in Nose Hill, and she's laid up in bed. So we're on dog watch today, doing double duty.
Well,
right,
she's
Zena?
being good.
Yeah, I tried my best to tire her out. So hopefully she naps through the whole recording. But I guess that means we got to get into it. Unless you have any shout-outs, anything you want to mention before we get going?
Not really. I didn't come prepared with any specific shout-outs. Just, again, it's really exciting for me to see so many people subscribing and listening to the show. So thank you,
yeah, that's
everyone,
right.
And welcome.
We're heading up and to the right, right? All signs are looking good. But why don't we just dive in and get into it already? Project Bluebeam. This is an exciting topic, right? This is a really interesting one for me, and I think it's going to be hard to cover this without getting a little controversial and maybe even a little bit political, because there's just a lot of charged ideas overlapped into this, and I think there's really passionate feelings on both sides. Some people, will say that this is utter nonsense completely, and there's absolutely nothing to it, and absolutely there's an argument to be made for that. And there's other people that are devout believers that this is actually happening today. It's actually underway right now as we speak. So there's very passionate feelings on both sides. But I'm really interested to unpack it and kind of unravel this one. It's a really fun one.
I was really excited for this topic because for me, this kind of feels like coming back to the beginning, because the first episode of this show, you had asked me to join you on. It was episode 3, I think. What did we talk about? We talked
about drones.
UFOs, UAPs, drones. We also talked about demons, and we talked about government conspiracies. And this kind of all those things come together in this story. So it's like coming back to the start for me.
Yeah, excellent bookending. Great. Well, why don't we start at the beginning? Let's start kind of with the man at the center of this, as we often do. A gentleman named Serge Monast, a French-Canadian fellow, investigative journalist from Montreal. And he wrote a book in 1994, which was all about Bluebeam, and that's where all of this stems from. Everything that came after that is basically just borrowed, built upon folklore, developing from that point. And I know you've got, it looks like, a lot more thorough biographical notes on Serge than I do. So do you want to lead us off and talk about Serge?
Yeah, so Serge Monast, he was born in 1945 in Montreal, Quebec. During the 60s and 70s, Serge Monast, he was very much a conventional journalist. He wrote for many small newspapers throughout Quebec. As time went on, though, he started getting more and more fringe. As the 1980s were approaching, he was talking more and more about hidden power structures within the government. He started talking about how, Canada and the UN were secret. Canada was secretly being controlled by this shadowy group of elites. And from Canada, they were secretly controlling the UN. And they were trying to bring in a one world government under their control. The New World Order.
Now, what an absurd idea. Who would believe such a thing?
He's kind of like he's kind of like a proto Alex Jones.
Yeah.
If Alex Jones were French Canadian. Anyway, in the 80s, he forms his own kind of independent publishing network called the International Free Press Agency. He begins self-publishing all his books and pamphlets because no newspaper is going to hire him anymore. And, a bunch of other fringe writers join him, and he uses this International Free Press Agency to publish all these fringe writings. It was in the 90s where he starts using the phrase the New World Order. And I think he lifted that directly from a speech by George Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Because George Bush Sr., he was talking about how we have an opportunity to bring in a New World Order. Yeah. And Serge Monash really latched onto that. Other people latched onto that too. Alex Jones talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
David Icke talks about it all the time.
Yeah, and I was being a little tongue-in-cheek there, but people throw around those terms New World Order or the Illuminati or whatever, and it does sound like crazy conspiracy theory fodder, but it's not entirely crazy when you break it down, because there is a big push in our world for globalization.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what we're talking about, a one-world government, a one-world kind of authority structure, and there are organizations like the WEF, that exist. It's not so absurd when you break it down, but it's easy for it to get kind of buried in the weeds of that conspiracy theory kind of meme.
Lizard
structure,
people.
Right? Yeah, lizard people.
Yeah.
But we're going to break that down a little bit, right?
Yeah. So in 1994, Serge Monash, he publishes this book. It's not really a book. It's like 20 pages. It's more of a pamphlet called Project Bluebeam. And what he's outlining here, he claims he got this information from, anonymous sources within the government.
And NASA.
And NASA, who he claims came forward because they still have a shred of conscience in them. It's very important to note, Serge Monash, he never produced a single shred of actual documentation.
That's right.
These are just anonymous sources that came to him and his International Free Press Agency and told him a story. And
so we're entirely on this man's word.
Yeah. Yeah. And what this story is it's the plan, the big plan to finally bring in this one world government under the elite's control, basically an enslavement of humanity. And it's a 4-point plan breaking down how they're going to do this, how they're going to deceive people into going along with this.
Okay, so why don't we break down those 4 points real quick, just quickly in brief, and then we'll go into detail as we kind of break things down. But first stage 1, Serge thought that there would be kind of archaeological discoveries, or kind of fake staged archaeological discoveries that would point perhaps to an alternate origin of humanity and maybe the existence of extraterrestrials. And then he thought kind of psychological manipulation would be used in stage 2 through giant holographic projections in the sky, meant to convince people that there was either a false alien invasion or the second coming of Christ.
Yeah, so these holographic projections he outlines in the document, he talks about projecting giant holograms onto the sodium layer of the atmosphere all over the world, and each region of the world would see their specific dominant Messiah.
Yeah.
The Western world would see an image of Jesus, and in the Middle East they'd see an image of Allah, and so on and so forth. And what these giant holographic deities would tell people would be that the known scriptures were false and misinterpreted.
Yeah.
And that this misinterpretation and these false scriptures were behind all the divisions in the world, why it's nation against nation and brother against brother. And
they would roll out a new world religion.
Yeah, and basically these giant holograms would eventually merge together to form a single new deity,
right?
The new true God,
right?
Which Serge Monast claims is actually the Antichrist,
right? Because it's all a massive deception.
Yeah,
and that also kind of an artificial form of telepathy would be used in concert with these giant holograms, so people would actually think they were hearing the voice of God in their own head, spoken in their own native language, but it would just be, again, technology utilizing into a giant deception.
Yeah,
basically to make people panic, be afraid, and just to buy what's happening, right? To be convinced that this is all, these are real world events, when in fact it's all being staged.
Yeah. So stage 3 of this plan, he talks about kind of these telepathic messages beamed into people's heads. He talks about ELF, electromagnetic waves, being used to beam voices, like the voice of God speaking directly to every person. And he also speaks about, by this point, that people having chip implants in their brains will be commonplace, and those will be utilized to beam the voices of God into people's heads.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's not like we don't see that happening right now. I mean, Neuralink, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not widespread or anything, but you are starting to see this proliferation of technologies that could be used to engage in such a deception, right?
Yeah.
More and more, like the big hot thing right now is these Meta AR glasses, augmented reality glasses, that have a display right in the lenses of the glasses that can display things to you. So instead of looking at your smartphone screen, more and more, it's just going to be in your field of view.
Yeah.
So you could imagine, instead of literal projections in the sky, if enough people were wearing that type of augmented reality device as they're going about their day, and incorporated in those is really awesome spatial audio that you get, right? So you can really get some very convincing input that there's things happening around you that aren't happening at all, right?
Yeah. But anyway, so we've got this false messiah speaking to everyone, in the sky and telepathically. But you know what? I don't feel like that would be enough. And I don't think Serge Monast felt like that would be enough to really get people to give over their freedoms and unify, because, the world is becoming a much more secular place. I've heard it said by some people, if I saw like a giant deity in the sky talking to me, I would just think, oh, that's state something or other.
Right.
That's something by the state. Like, I'm not even listening.
People are so
this is more smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
So how do you convince those people that are not religious, that are not believers? That's where stage 4 comes in. And stage 4 is the alien invasion. People are going to be told there's a hostile, alien invasion imminent, but it's all going to be fake.
Yeah.
And what this alien invasion, which is completely staged, is going to trigger is going to be a nuclear response.
Right.
The nations of the world are going to utilize their nuclear arsenals to fight off this staged alien invasion.
Yeah. Which will be another precursor to justify rolling out basically a massive police state.
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously that would represent a global emergency, at very least localized national emergencies where you'd have to go to martial law, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And at the same time as this staged alien invasion, there's going to be a simulated rapture of people throughout the world. Basically, what this is doing is it's quickly eliminating any opposition.
Yeah. They were raptured.
Yeah.
They were raptured.
Yeah. And at the same time,
freed up for other opportunities.
Yeah. And at the same time, Serge Monast talks about these satanic ghosts, which will visit people via networks and appliances to induce kind of a mass hysteria, social breakdown, and suicide. He calls it the Night of 1,000 Stars.
Right.
And after the Night of 1,000 Stars, you've had an alien invasion, a nuclear war, mass psychosis. Society is kind of fractured enough that everyone is crying out for a solution, which they will find in this new false messiah, the Antichrist.
Yeah, and again, I got to point out, it all sounds really outlandish and crazy. And I know
that sounds like the most bizarre sci-fi story ever.
Yeah, it's really wild.
Face.
It's really wild, right? But I think, and I mean, I will put the caveat, again, we already stated, there's absolutely no hard evidence whatsoever that Blue Beam itself actually exists.
No, there's no documentation.
Other than what is in Serge Monast's writings. But it's not like all those elements, ultimately what we're talking about is a false flag.
Yeah.
And false flags happen. They've happened all through history. They're very effective for changing hearts and minds of people to justify military actions. It's happened before. It'll definitely happen again. This is just basically the ultimate false flag, right? If you could be imagined. And definitely there's very well documented cases of social control experimentation. We've talked a lot about MK Ultra on this show in the past. Yeah. So I won't go over that in great detail again. Again, we've covered it. But CIA mind control experimentation using drugs and hypnosis and other stimulus to alter people's minds. You have the Milgram obedience and Stanford prison experiments. Mm-hmm. Again, horrible history we have of experimenting on people against their will to test their psychology, but that was based on kind of obedience to authority. And more recently in 2014, the Facebook emotional contagion studies, right? So this was an experiment where variations in news feed content measurably affected emotional tone of users' posts, demonstrating large-scale platform influence on mood. And then there's the big Cambridge Analytica, targeted political micro-targeting. So we're seeing this more and more. Basically, every election we have now is riddled with controversy because there's what we call nudge units being utilized by all political parties on every side of the spectrum, basically leveraging the power of social media to kind of influence people in one direction or another. And it doesn't have to be huge. You just kind of nudge people with one story, and it's usually kind of outrage bait that you see, right? To kind of reinforce people's biases against one side or another.
So, Serge Monast, he talked about giant holograms in the sky and beams being sent into people's minds to whisper thoughts to them. And keep in mind, this was back in the 90s. This might be a lack of imagination on either Monast's part or his government whistleblower's part, because honestly, that would not be needed anymore for mass manipulation.
No.
It would not be needed at all.
No.
You have no idea. You have no idea how much we are manipulated every day. Like, example, us two, we're hosting a podcast. How long have we been doing this? How long have we been on the internet? Coming up to a year. And, we've worked really hard on it, and we're gaining an audience very slowly. And it's really encouraging to see, but you have no idea how hard you have to work and you have to grind to actually get anything actually in front of people.
Yeah.
Because everything is controlled by algorithms. The news that appears on your feed, every piece of media you consume is being pushed to you by one party or another. Your thoughts and opinions are being slowly shaped and manipulated every single day based on the algorithms of an AI, which is controlled by someone else.
Yeah. Well, and debunkers of this theory or disbelievers of this theory will often point to the technical limitations of what he describes and just the barriers that would exist to trying to create that kind of homogeneous illusion of an alien invasion or seeing deities in the sky all over the world. My argument would be that you don't have to have it totally, you don't need total global coverage, which today you could, like you say, using other methods, like using social manipulation through social media and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But you could have just smaller scale staged events in particular locations that would, like if you think of like mass sighting events like the Phoenix Lights or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you just did one, if you just had something happen like at the Vatican or New York City or London and Singapore, and a few other handful of picked places, right? You would generate enough stir to create panic, right?
Yeah. And
because it just needs to be believable enough.
Yeah.
That not every single person on Earth needs to be a direct witness.
Yeah. And I mean, we had an event very much like that just a couple of weeks ago. There was this big display at the Vatican. It was some sort of concert being held in honor of some sort of Jubilee year. I don't know the exact details of it, but part of this concert was above the Vatican. They had a swarm of, I think it was 3,000 drones, put together this giant holographic light show above the Vatican. They were displaying these three-dimensional holograms of scenes from the Bible above the Vatican while this concert was going on. Interestingly enough, the company that put together this light show that provided all these 3,000 drones, that's a company called Nova Sky Stories, and it's owned by a man named Kimball Musk. Who is the brother of that other Musk, who owns Neuralink that wants to put chips in everyone's brains.
Right. Yeah, no, you sent me a video of that this morning, and really quite impressive. Like, I've seen other videos of those swarm drone presentations. They do them in China all the time. And they use hundreds and hundreds of drones to create these images and displays in the sky. And they're really incredible. And so if something like that was happening unexpectedly and wasn't set up in the context of an event, like, you could create something pretty convincing. I'm sorry, Zena.
Zena doesn't like this idea.
Groaning. She's actually quite settled, but she's just like, she's listening to us talking and we're not engaging her, so she's like, what the fuck, you guys? But really, it's impressive technology. It's developing really quickly. It's being used more and more. And just on a pop culture front, because I know we're going to reference something else a little later, but you see examples of it popping up in pulp. I think it's the second Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. Did you see that one with Mysterio?
No, I did not.
Oh, it's good. It's one of the ones I liked more. But Mysterio, one of my favorite villains from Spider-Man. But how he deceives everyone is he's got kind of swarms of these drones, and they're created by Tony Stark to help Spider-Man. He hacks them, basically, and uses them to create giant holograms to deceive everybody. And then he plays the hero, right, that defeats this monster or whatever that isn't really there. And so everyone thinks Mysterio's the hero, right? That's how he tricks everyone. It's exactly this. It's exactly Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Right?
And, something Serge Manasse talks about is, he admits very much that this sounds like a crazy science fiction story. But he talks about kind of pre-programming in media and cinema. Putting this stuff out there, or elements of it out there, and getting people used to the idea. One of the things he often talks about is getting people used to the idea, the thought in people's minds of an alien invasion. Like, what have we been seeing so much over the past couple of years? We've been seeing more and more things coming out about UFOs, UAPs. We had that whole New Jersey drone phenomenon happen at the end of last year.
And I was going to mention, we didn't have a chance to talk about for the show, but happening at the same time as that big drone flap, what else did you have? You had sightings of big, giant green laser beams coming down from the sky over, like, Alaska and California, and people thought it was like Chinese spy satellites or testing Chinese satellite weapons. Do you remember those stories?
I didn't read about those, but
no. Oh, okay. If you go back, look for it. Those stories are out there. Maybe I'll dig one up to throw into the show notes. But that was absolutely happening at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's exactly what Serge Manasse talks about, these giant laser projectors to create these holograms. Cena
really doesn't like this idea.
Hold on a second here.
And, things like this have actually been used before Well, they've been planned before in warfare. In 1999, declassified was a plan called the Allah hologram psyop. They planned to use this during the first Gulf War. And what was planned was a giant hologram of Allah that U.S. forces would project into the sky over Iraq. And using directional audio, they would kind of beam voices directly into enemy soldiers' mind, telling them that Allah was telling them to overthrow Saddam Hussein.
Right.
This was planned. This
Yeah.
was admittedly planned, but never implemented. This directional audio is there's a name for it. It's called the Voice of God weapon. And the U.S. government admits to this existing, but does not admit to actually fielding it.
Right.
And basically, yeah, it
Was it ever tested? Do you know?
I'm sure it's been tested, but
Right.
there's
Maybe not
I mean,
in
no
the field.
admitted,
Yeah.
specific tests. But yeah, basically a form of directional audio that would beam voices directly into the minds of enemy soldiers.
Yeah.
And we know this kind of thing.
This technology definitely exists. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you can get a certain kind of headphones or earbuds or whatever that don't actually use any kind of speaker. They just use the bones in your ear canal.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just kind of send a pulse that vibrates these bones that creates the audio. And it's apparently it sounds amazing. Like it's perfect, fully immersive audio. And there's no actual speakers. There's
Yeah.
no direct sound being generated by an external device.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I forget exactly what it's called. But this kind of plan, I mean, this has actually been utilized in warfare, not using technology this advanced, but in the Vietnam War, they would use tactics like this. Like the Viet Cong, they would have these audio recordings. They would blast into the jungle late at night, basically with the sounds of screams of pain and just absolute hellish sounds on a loudspeaker with a voice going, lay down your weapons, GI, your friends are dead. And they would just play this on a constant loop as a form of psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Both sides actually did that in the Vietnam War. So we know that the technology exists now to do such things, and we know previously, similar things were actually utilized in warfare.
Yeah. Because what is a false flag? It's psychological warfare against your own citizenry in order to gain compliance for what horrible things you're about to do.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's so scary about this idea. Because if it was really happening, it would mean we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And it's not
I kind of wish we had delved into this on the episode Mike was on, because I feel like it very much aligns.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of those very plausible end-of-the-world scenarios.
Yeah, and I mean, we know false flags have been utilized all throughout history. The really popular example is, the Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
In Nazi Germany, Hitler, he could not gain the kind of dictatorial powers he wanted. He did not have, the people on his side enough to do that. So he basically created a problem so that he could get a reaction out of the people, and then he could offer his solution. And what it was the German parliament, the Reichstag, burned down, and it's blamed on what a Polish communist. They blamed it on, we're being invaded. The Poles are attacking us. The communists are attacking us. The Constitution could not foresee this crisis. Therefore, you need to hand us more powers so we can deal with the crisis more effectively. And he never gave up his powers. That's how,
That's
Nazi
how
Germany happened.
Yeah, that's right. Very effective, right? And for those of you who might be thinking, well, that was Hitler, Western governments would never do that. The U.S. government would never do that. I would point to Operation Northwoods from 1962. And this is 100% verified, real, declassified DoD document detailing U.S. military leaders' proposed false flag operations to justify going to war with Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And it was ultimately rejected by Kennedy at the time. But it's very detailed document. I'll post it in the show notes, the entire document. And it goes through different strategies and things they could do in order to gain favor with the U.S. populace to justify going to war with Cuba if they needed to. and all staged fake events, right? And like the Gulf of Tonkin is another one,
Yeah.
right? Used as a pretext for going to war with Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So it's documented. These things happen all the time, right? Our governments, our authorities are not above using this strategy, and it's proven very effective in the past. This would just be at a global scale in order to be that kind of, I guess, final thrust into true globalization.
Yeah.
And a true, fully global government, right? We're starting to sound a little Alex Jonesy. I don't know. Do you think we're losing people?
Well, I don't know. Would you like to talk about the Book of Revelations?
Sure. Yeah. Perfect. Time to go into Revelations. Yeah.
I was immediately struck.
I'm sorry. I'm flipping pages. We're jumping all over my notes here.
With this topic, this 4-stage plan outlined in Project Bluebeam. It immediately sounded familiar to it because it's basically like it's all Book of Revelations, just with a little bit of a sci-fi flavor to it. But it's all in Book of Revelations. You know, the Book of Revelations describes this beast or Antichrist who is supported by a false prophet, deceiving the nations of the world. This false prophet and Antichrist are going to create illusions and cosmic events. You know, stars falling from heaven, famine, plague, disease, war.
So, and you know what? All of those examples, I just want to point out that you just mentioned, all of those things are happening right now, except the stars falling from the sky. But we have tons of space junk right now. And I saw something, I can't remember the source right now, but pointing out that we've got all this junk, we've got old satellites that just need a nudge, right? And you could at once deorbit a bunch of old satellites or whatever. And some people would even point in the very conspiratorial-minded Starlink as being utilized to create that effect of, oh no, the sky is falling, and to just start inundating objects into our atmosphere, which will ultimately be harmless, right? They'll burn up in the atmosphere, but they'll create a hell of a light show that will really scare people.
Yeah.
Right? If they are all deorbited at once.
Yeah. So anyway, in Revelations, the beast or Antichrist rises to power. You know, he offers himself as the solution to these cataclysms which are happening to the earth. And basically enslaves all of humanity. Everyone is required to worship the Antichrist, to worship the image of the Antichrist, and to take his mark, which you will be required to have to buy or sell anything. Basically to participate in society at all. You won't be allowed to do anything unless you accept the Antichrist. You know, I can think of parallels to this in recent events. I really can.
Yeah.
But, you know, what Monast was describing is he was basically describing a technological control grid, which we kind of live in. I was just describing how everything, all your thoughts and your opinions are more and more being shaped by what an artificial intelligence is telling you to think and believe.
Yeah.
And there's actually a great quote from Revelations, which seems to mirror this. You know, Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Doesn't that sound just like an AI control grid? An image of something that can speak and think?
I just want to put a caveat that, I mean, all of Revelations, the text should be considered as symbolic in any interpretation. But I don't find it hard to make that leap to read that interpretation.
Yeah, and
it fits.
It's when Monast is speaking about a staged alien invasion to trigger a nuclear war. Just go to your Bible. I got your Bible. I got my Bible right here. Go to your Bible. Read Revelation 8:6. And tell me that does not sound like a description of a nuclear war and a nuclear winter afterwards.
I'm not familiar with that one. Can you tell me about it?
I can read a bit of it here.
I'm sorry. I'm intentionally putting you on the spot because you mentioned that you didn't have it ready.
I got my Bible right here. Okay, Revelation 8:6. Then the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets prepared to blow their mighty blasts. The first angel blew his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown down on the earth. 1/3 of the earth was set on fire, 1/3 of the trees were burned, and all the green grass was burned. The second angel blew his trumpet, and a great mountain of fire was thrown into the sea. 1/3 of the water in the sea became blood, 1/3 of all the living things in the sea died, and 1/3 of all the ships on the sea were destroyed. Then the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from the sky. Burning like a torch, it fell on 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star was Bitterness. It made 1/3 of the water bitter, and many people died from drinking it. Then the fourth angel blew his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, and they became dark, and 1/3 of the day was dark, and 1/3 of the night. Then I looked, and I saw a single eagle crying loudly as it flew through the air, "Terror, terror, terror to all who belong to this world."
Interesting. Especially the specific imagery of the eagle, and the repeating phrase "terror, terror, terror."
Yeah.
I mean, the eagle, very much associated with the United States in symbolism, as well as other nation states throughout history, right? You could point to Rome as well as Nazi Germany, but undeniable, the United States, the American eagle, right?
Yeah.
And what did we hear after 9/11, which some people, I don't want to be controversial, but some people will claim as being a false flag event into itself. I'm not going to get into that.
Well, you don't need to, because what did Dick Cheney say immediately after 9/11? He said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste."
Yeah.
We can use this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can use this.
And then what did you hear in the media? We were bombarded with terrorists. Got to fight the terrorists, right? What you think about that event, regardless, it was capitalized upon to create further war, the war against terror, as you say, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, interesting. I'm just realizing this might be a bit of a derail at this point, but we never talked about. We kind of moved off Serge Monast before we were able to talk about his death.
Yeah. So what happened to Serge Monast 2 years after his publication of Project Bluebeam? Serge Monast was married. He had 2 kids, a son and a daughter. This was with his 4th wife. And I guess in 1996, there was some sort of domestic disturbance. This kind of leads to Monast's children being taken away by the, Quebec Youth Protection Authorities. They're not receiving a conventional education. Monast is being emotionally neglectful to them by not giving them a proper education. This arises from this domestic disturbance. Stories vary on kind of the nature of this domestic disturbance. I'm sure
there's at least 2 sides.
Yeah. And I guess stemming from this domestic disturbance, Monast is arrested. He spends the night in jail. He's released the next day. And then he abruptly dies of a heart attack at 51 years old. He had no previous health conditions.
Yeah.
So a lot of people consider this very suspect.
Yeah.
That he's
51 is young for a heart attack, even these days.
He's saying all these things about shadowy elites and government conspiracies, and then
he claimed he was being followed.
Yeah, he claimed he was being followed. He claimed he was being harassed, and people have 2 minds about this. Maybe Monast was kind of neglectful to his children. We have gone over some of his writings. He probably wasn't giving his homeschooled children a conventional education, at least not when it came to history.
Yeah. It doesn't mean he was giving them a poor education.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. And then there's the heart attack.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked all about how, the technology to make all these aspects of Bluebeam happen exists. People will claim that this heart attack was caused by whatever government agency was after him.
Yeah.
Well, we know that technology exists too, because if you go back to 1975 and you watch the church committee hearings,
Yeah.
And this is where we got all our information about MK Ultra. You know, it was an investigation into abuses of power by various government agencies. That's where we got MK Ultra. But at one point, Frank Church, during one of these hearings, he pulls out a pistol and he puts it on the table, and he's interviewing this representative of the CIA, and he asks him, "Can you identify this device?" And it's a very specific kind of pistol, because what it does, this is in the hearing, the CIA admits to this. What this pistol does is it doesn't fire a bullet. It fires this tiny dart, which will enter a human body. It'll leave a mark no bigger than a mosquito bite.
Yeah.
And the dart will immediately dissolve within the body, leaving nothing traceable left. And what this dart is designed to do, it's made of some sort of marine toxin,
Right.
and it's supposed to trigger a heart attack.
So it's a CIA heart attack gun.
Yeah, it triggers a heart attack, and it leaves no traceable evidence other than a small mark, no bigger than a mosquito bite on the body. The dart itself dissolves.
Yeah.
This
Sounds
exists. It's admitted.
Sounds
You
like
can
a
you
great
can go
way
on
to
YouTube and you
somebody.
you can go on YouTube. You can watch like the clip from the Church Committee hearings where the CIA admits this is what this gun does. It exists.
And I'm sure there's a slew of other technologies and methods the CIA and other shadowy government organizations have in order to end somebody who's maybe not toeing the line.
You know, it's
But
funny.
it is curious timing. Like, he had just been interrogated by police the night before. He had no prior signs of heart disease whatsoever. I think he had recently had a physical. So it is immediately kind of suspicious, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that's suspicious is if you read the Project Bluebeam document, there's like a little foreword written by the translator, and it references a second author to Project Bluebeam, like an anonymous second author that's never named. And it says this second author also mysteriously dropped dead of a heart attack within 2 weeks of Serge Monast's death.
Yeah.
The second author of Bluebeam also dies of a heart attack. I've scoured the internet. I was not able to verify this by finding the name of this second author. No one knows who he is.
Well, then it all becomes circumstantial at that point. Because
Yeah.
if you don't have a name, it's like you really can't verify any of that.
Yeah, the one verifiable part of this story is we can confirm that this heart attack inducing weapon does exist. Confirmed, admitted by the CIA. It exists.
Yeah, and that's kind of the conundrum I'm seeing with this whole thing, is that the grand overarching story sounds really, like you said, it's kind of sci-fi and ridiculous and outlandish. But if you break it down into its individual constituent pieces, there's tons of supporting evidence for this being at least plausible.
Yeah,
and you could make an argument that this is going on right now.
Yeah.
Like, I point to he talked about his very first point on the first stage of rolling out this grand deception is sacred sites and ancient archaeological sites and new discoveries being made that kind of upend our understanding of history. And what did we have earlier this year? We had this big discovery at the Khafre pyramid that we
did
covered,
an episode.
right? Which obviously hasn't been 100% substantiated, but that's exactly the kind of story, the kind of thing you'd expect to see in the rollout of Bluebeam.
Archaeological discoveries that completely rewrite known history.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we're seeing the proliferation of technology, holographic technology, drone technology that could be utilized in such a deception. So, yeah, all the pieces start building up and compiling on top of each other.
Yeah, as presented by Monast, like it sounds like this all happens at once.
Yeah.
But why this story has kind of resonated so much with people, especially lately, is you could make the point. I think we've been making the point for the past hour that we've kind of been seeing something very much like this plan unfolding all around us.
Yeah.
For the past couple of decades in slow motion.
Basically, since he came out with this publication.
Yeah.
You've seen it slowly kind of creep into reality.
Yeah.
I do want to throw a debunking, I guess a bit of debunking wrench into the works here. And do you want to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 4, Episode 13?
Devils do. I know it well. And this episode came out, probably a year before.
I guess, I think, if I'm correct, 18 months before his book, Manas's book, was published.
Yeah. So in this episode, the Enterprise is visiting this planet. There's some Federation scientists on the planet, and the Federation scientists need to be rescued because the society on this planet, this alien society, is collapsing because these aliens are convinced that their world is ending, that the devil has come to take over their planet. Basically, their version of the Antichrist. It's this woman named Ardra.
Yeah.
And it's kind of revealed throughout the course of the episode that this woman Ardra isn't actually the Antichrist. She's using all sorts of holograms and illusions to make herself look like she has the power of the Antichrist. My favorite scene in that episode is where she's going on and on about how she's known on all sorts of worlds under different names and different deities, and she's like, the Klingons call me Feklar, and Worf kind of bows up and he's like, you are not Feklar.
Yeah.
And she just snaps her fingers and she transforms into this Klingon monster.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, but I am Mr. Worf. I guard the grates of Greythor where the dishonored go when they die.
I always like triggering you this way because you seem to have like every episode of every TV show memorized somehow. I don't know how you do that.
No, just The Simpsons and Star Trek.
But anyway, no, again, just to the point, it's exactly the plot of Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Is the plot of this episode. And even Manast himself kind of points to Star Trek.
He talks about Star Trek quite a bit in
an
the
influence.
Bluebeam documents. He says Star Trek was put out there as a form of pre-programming, getting certain ideas out in the public consciousness to prepare people for what was to come.
Sorry, I'm trying to fend off the dog here. She's like trying to eat my arm. I would argue not even like pre-programming per se, but like even this episode feels like it could be direct influence for the idea of Bluebeam. And that's what I mean by kind of throwing a debunking wrench into it. But whether it is or not, as I was working through research this week on this, trying to figure out, is Bluebeam real? Essentially. Where, I don't know about you, but where I landed was whether it's literally a real plot or not, it kind of feels like it's happening. And if you think about that Star Trek episode, like the con woman, I guess, perpetrating the illusion of Ardra, didn't create the idea. She capitalized the fact that it was already built into that planet's culture.
Yeah, they had their own version of Book of Revelations, basically.
Exactly. And then she recognized that and said, I can play into this, right? And use it to manipulate and con these people.
Yeah.
So what if we're seeing the same thing today? Maybe the fictional myth of Bluebeam created a cultural opportunity to really create a real Bluebeam. I'm packaging that poorly. But do you see where I'm going?
I mean,
it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And I mean, the same with Book of Revelations. If you were to kind of accept the premise that Bluebeam is a real plan unfolding around us, did the Book of Revelations at the end of the Bible, did it prophesize this? Or did some shadowy government agency take the Book of Revelation as inspiration and say, hey, Antichrist, Beast, Mark of the Beast, this is all great stuff. Yeah. Let's use this.
Totally. Oh, and just like if we create these elements, people will believe that's what's happening because they've already been preconditioned by the Book of Revelations, right? To take certain events as signs, as signposts of what's happening, right? So that's kind of where my mind went in all of this. But there's still one element that I guess that's missing. If you're looking at the world today, you could build the argument that Bluebeam is being effectively rolled out at this moment. But there's one missing element left. And what's that?
The alien invasion.
The alien invasion.
But
Right.
what is, I don't know about you, but my news feed for the past few months has been just jammed with like this one story appearing over and over again.
AIS.
Hostile alien craft approaching Earth.
Yeah.
Because, people latched on to that 3i Atlas story. There is a lot of people that believe that 3i Atlas may be some sort of extraterrestrial craft.
Yeah.
People have really latched onto this, and a lot of stories are being pushed that this is a hostile alien invasion unfolding.
That's right.
Inbound, right in front of us.
Yeah. And if you've not listened to our episode on 3i Atlas, I forget how many episodes ago it was, but it was a while back. I think we did it in, when was it, July or something like that?
Something like
maybe
that.
late July?
This is episode 39, and that was episode 30.
Anyway, great episode, really fun, and probably definitely our most popular episode to date on the show. There's obviously a lot of interest. Everybody wants to know what's going on, and it keeps getting weirder. And like you said, the story keeps evolving. So much so we are going to do a follow-up episode next week because so much has happened since that last episode. And yeah, that the more things evolve with that story, the stranger it gets and the harder it gets to write it off as just an ordinary comet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't want to say too much about it now because we are going to delve back into that next week. But yeah, if things continue to get even stranger with that case, that could be the exact pretext they need for this false alien invasion.
Yeah. Atlas approaches. Let's see what happens over the next several months.
That's right. Exciting stuff. So let's get to wrapping it up. This has actually been a very difficult episode to record. We've had to stop I don't know how many times because Xena really didn't stay settled past the first 5 minutes or so.
So I think for myself, I would like to end the episode with a direct quote from Serge Monast from Project Bluebeam.
Perfect.
The new technology is designed and built to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for a specific purpose, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire population of the world, is to deny the emergence of the Antichrist and the establishment of the New World Order religion and government. If you cannot see, if you cannot learn, if you cannot understand, then you and your family and friends will succumb to the fires of the crematoria that have been built in every state and every major city on Earth, built to deal with you. No one is safe in a totalitarian police state. Have a great weekend.
I'm assuming "have a great weekend" is not in the text. Yeah. That's post the quote.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely great. Yes. Thanks for sticking with us, folks. Hopefully, you have apologize for the whining, and hopefully, after editing, you won't hear necessarily all the stops and starts we had to do to get this episode put together today. But yeah, it was a bumpy ride for us, but hopefully it sounds good to you. And thanks for sticking with us. And
like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yes, all the things. Thanks, Clayton. And have a good weekend and good night.
Good night.